Imagine standing on a frozen cliff, the sea wind in your face, your camera in hand, and the sky alive with 1 million wings. This is Hornøya, a seabird city found on a remote island on Norway's Arctic edge. I travelled here to photograph some of my favourite seabird species in the snow, an opportunity that I can't access back at home with puffins, shags, razorbills and guillemots. But nature had its own story to tell, and not everything went to plan.
Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're joining us for the first time, my name is Rachel Bigsby. I'm a wildlife photographer specialising in seabirds, and this video, as you can probably already hear, is coming to you from Arctic Norway, from a beautiful seabird island called Hornøya.
I arrived with a head full of ideas to create something that really felt like the birds, not just what they looked like. Because here, I was able to get closer than ever before with these birds. Softly, slowly and carefully, I made my way around their sleeping bodies, mindful not to disturb or stress them. The snow muffled my steps, and in that stillness, I was granted unparalleled opportunities to photograph their feathers and features up close. I began by focusing on the shags. These are the birds carved from shadow and salt, elegant and ancient with bottle green plumage that catches the light like oil on water. Their eyes, emerald green and intelligent, watch the sea with a patience honed over centuries. I used the opportunity to photograph the texture and details in their feathers, patiently waiting until one paused from preening and gave a little ruffle, a sudden burst of motion that sent layers of contour and shine rippling across its body. I've included some footage here just to show you how different the ruffled feathers are from when they lie flat, and how that small shift creates photographs that feel more tangible, more textured and more alive. It's a subtle moment, but when captured, it adds dynamism, shape and emotion. Flat feathers, for me, often fall short of that same visual impact.
This really is an amazing place to photograph seabirds close up, like these beautiful European shags, one of my favourite birds to work with. The light right now doesn't really bring out the iridescence in their feathers, but they are of course famed for that beautiful emerald green eye and their bottle green plumage, those real scale-like, dragon-like feathers and big feet, and of course that iconic crest on the top of their head in the breeding season. They are just one of the most magnificent birds, and I've been really fortunate to get lots of close-up detailed texture shots of these birds, and sometimes it's so worth just sitting down and just spending some time with them with my eyes rather than my lens, and you actually get to notice so many more details. I hadn't really ever appreciated how small their eyes are before. I have quite a few photos of their eyes close up, and of course there isn't really scale in a photograph, but now seeing them this close, I think this is the closest I've ever been to a European shag. You really get to appreciate those real fine details.
Then I moved on to the razorbills, a slightly shyer seabird with a lower tolerance for presence, so I didn't linger. But it was an opportunity not to be missed, if achievable ethically. Razorbills have long captivated me. They're the focus of many of my strongest images and my fondest memories. So I took my time, slowly and respectfully, working my lens around the bird to capture the delicate details. even a tiny snowflake resting on the inky black feathers on its back. I photographed the striking white lines that flow from beak to eye with a softness and a depth of field that I could never achieve back home. And I worked with considered speed, balancing my creative intent with the bird's need for calm, making sure I captured what I'd hoped for, but also gave the bird space to rest. Among all the many seabirds on Hornøya, one species dominates in both number and noise: the guillemots. They cloak the cliff in motion and sound, sleek, upright silhouettes packed shoulder to shoulder, constantly shifting, calling, wing beating, and preening. Up close, their elegance is striking. Chocolate brown plumage, slender necks, and dagger-thin bills. Some wear a white ring of feathers that loops around the eye and pulls into a line between the head, a variation known as the bridled guillemot. These are small differences, but in a sea of movement, they catch the eye like a glint of light on water. Guillemots are true seabirds. They spend most of their lives out on the open ocean, only returning to land to breed. They lay a single egg directly on bare rock, no nest, no bedding, relying on the egg's unique shape to keep it from rolling off the cliff's edge. It's an elegant evolutionary solution to life on the ledge. The weather shifted constantly while I was there. One moment, snowfall and silence, the next, bright sun cracking through the cloud before the wind would whip sideways and send icy hail from the Arctic sky. But within that unpredictability were moments of real magic. One I particularly loved was photographing the guillemots against the low sun. I used a wide aperture and waited, finger on the shutter, eyes scanning until the light burst through the wing of a stretching bird or outlined the contour of its neck just right. Silhouettes of guillemots would zip through the frame, on the wing, weaving its way between me and the sun. And then came a moment I'll never forget. One unpredictable moment I really hoped for above all others. I'd read about it and I'd seen glimpses of it on social media, but witnessing it in person is something else entirely. When a predator passes overhead, usually a white-tailed eagle, the guillemots erupt. Tens of thousands leave the cliff all at once. A sudden thunderous lift, the whole sky moving as one body. And it happened in front of me, and I finally experienced it for myself. In that moment, I didn't think about camera settings or framing. I just watched wide-eyed and heart-racing with the biggest smile on my face in absolute amazement at this spectacle unfolding right before my eyes. But not everything unfolded the way I'd imagined. The terrain was far steeper than I expected. The birds were nesting high up, out of reach, and there were more visitors than I'd hoped for. And honestly, I was just feeling overwhelmed.
I've been photographing some textures this morning, the snow, the water droplets on the birds' feathers, and it's a really amazing location to get close up to seabirds that I can't get this close to in the UK. For example, the shags and the razorbills. But I want something different. I'm wanting something that I'll leave really satisfied with, and I'm thinking of trying a in-camera multiple exposure of the shags.
I'd come here to create. I had a head full of ideas, but I struggled to even see the images I wanted.
I'm finding it really difficult.
That's something we rarely talk about in wildlife photography. The mental side, the pressure and the expectations that we carry into wild spaces. But nature doesn't perform on command, and sometimes neither do we.
So capturing these in-camera multiple exposures are a lot trickier than I thought they were going to be here. I'm struggling to find two different shots to line up that are effective. Anyway, given the fact that there isn't anywhere in the UK I can get so close to these seabirds, look at them behind me. We have shags, razorbills, puffins, all there. And I think I'm going to focus on textures. I'm going to photograph feathers close up, beaks close up, feet, water droplets, snowflakes, and really take this opportunity to photograph things here that I can't capture in the UK.
I tried and I failed, and I sat feeling so defeated. And then I felt so frustrated with myself for feeling this way at such a dream location. And I've come to realise that somewhere along the way, the innocence and purity that first drew me to wildlife photography has started to fade, and it's been replaced by the pressure to constantly create, to succeed and to achieve. And I miss the simplicity of just having a beautiful day out among wild things, without expectation, without outcome. And I've allowed these quiet joys to be overshadowed by the weight that I put on myself. So on this day, I just sat down and let go of the plan and the pressure, and I reminded myself that not every moment needs to be captured, and some are simply just meant to be felt. And I gave myself permission just to be present and take it all in, and let my gratitude for the opportunity to be here overpower my disappointment for feeling like I hadn't done enough. So I picked myself back up with one reliable source, the Atlantic puffin. Few birds carry such charm on their shoulders as the Atlantic puffin. There's something irresistibly endearing about them. Small, round, bright-beaked, waddling through the snow like wind-up toys. But beneath that charm is something much more serious. These birds are built for survival, for enduring brutal winters at sea and returning each spring with one thing on their mind: territory. I watch them reconnect, pairs billing gently, touching their beaks in a ritual of recognition. These little moments of intimacy, of pair bonding, were so beautiful to witness, affectionate and full of trust. But I shortly found out that one wrong glance, one step too close, and the peace shatters. These birds may look comical, almost toy-like, but when it comes to defending a burrow, they don't hold back. During the breeding season, males return early to claim their ground, and they'll fight fiercely to keep it, beak to beak, claw to claw, feathers flying everywhere. Some of the battles were brief and explosive, but some of them were long, locked struggles that sent both birds rolling down a slope in a blur of black and white. These territories matter. Every burrow is a lifeline, a dark and dry, protected place where the puffins can carefully rear their precious chick. That's what they're fighting for. Before I go, I want to speak honestly about something that stayed with me after visiting Hornøya. Sharing this video may encourage others to visit, and in many ways I welcome that. But I wouldn't be honouring the birds if I didn't also share the moral dilemma I felt. With so little information online, I arrived not knowing what to expect. I didn't even know where to get my ticket for the boat. And what I found surprised me. Constant ferries, no visitor limits, and a seabird colony under pressure. This level of footfall, mine included, must have consequences. I saw photographers, unintentionally but repeatedly, disturbing the very ground they came to admire, lying across burrows, blocking pathways, putting tripods at the entrances of birds' nests, swept up in the excitement. It wasn't done in harm, but the harm still happens. And for that reason, I'm unsure if I'll return. Because the island deserves better management, especially during a fragile breeding season. And maybe that's something for all of us to carry. A little quiet moment of awareness to lift our eyes from the lens and just make sure that in trying to capture the wild, we're not unknowingly causing harm to it. If this video has resonated with you, if you've enjoyed this mix of art, story, and wild experience, I would love to invite you to explore my new ebook, The Art of Wildlife Photography. Over 55 pages, I go deeper into my mindset and my approach behind some of my strongest images, blending technique with creativity, patience, knowledge, and instinct. Thank you for joining me on this journey to Hornøya. If you'd like to see more adventures like this, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe.